Thanks for tuning in to watch The Ordinary Filmmaker. It's Sunday, January the 2nd, 2022. Every year around the 1st or 2nd of January, I put out a video with a complete list of trade shows covering off photo, video, broadcast, and cinema for professionals and consumers alike. Well, this year, 4/3 rumors beat me to the punch, but they left out one major event covering photo, video, and imaging. Stay tuned as I provide you with a complete list of trade shows covering off photo, video, cinema, and broadcast, as well as corporate events we can expect from Canon, Panasonic, Sony, and others to make major camera announcements outside of these events. I don't know about you, but I'm not over the holidays yet. I haven't even gone back to work. Work starts in a couple of days, but already we're on the eve of a major consumer electronics show, and that's CES 2022, which takes place in Las Vegas from the 5th through the 7th. But don't expect any major camera announcements. That's not what CES is all about. Although Sharp did tease us about an 8K stills hybrid camera using the Micro Four Thirds sensor. Is that going to be announced at CES? Well, we should know within a few days. I'll cover off any major camera announcements, so subscribe and stay tuned to learn more. While we won't be getting any major announcements at CES for stills hybrid cameras, we are expecting two major announcements in the weeks following CES. The first is the Canon R5C, which is rumored to drop between January the 11th and the 18th, according to Canon rumors, and it's rated as a CR2 or a CR3. It's been validated and comes from known sources. The R5C is a video-centric version of the Canon EOS R5, which is a stills hybrid camera that has very good video capabilities but suffers from overheating in many modes. Well, the R5C is supposed to be able to deliver 8K RAW at 30 frames per second without any overheating. It's going to have a slightly larger body with a fan for active cooling. But any new features? Well, we don't know. The rumor says that right now the R5C is basically going to have the same capabilities as the R5, but with the larger body and the fan, it's not going to overheat. So that's really good news. So we can expect to get an announcement of the R5C somewhere between January the 11th and the 18th, with the camera shipping just 8 weeks later. But there's another camera that many of you have been waiting for a very, very long time, myself inclusive, and that's a follow-up to the GH5, the much anticipated GH6. Panasonic has given us a development announcement and said it was going to come out in 2021, and then in late 2021 they gave us this, saying, "My apologies, it will be coming out soon, early in 2022. So we can expect the Panasonic GH6 to drop rather soon. It's going to have some rather good stills and video capabilities, but when? Well, it could drop as early as the second week of January, or it could go right up until the edge of the next major trade show. CP Plus has to be the most anticipated photo, video, and imaging trade show for consumers and professionals alike. It takes place in Yokohama, Japan, between the 22nd and the 27th. Although you might notice there's two different dates. So from the 22nd to the 27th, it's online only, and from the 24th until the 27th, it's both online and in person. Of course, the way things are going, it might just be online. So we could get an announcement of the GH6 in the days leading up to CP Plus. CP Plus is one of those interesting trade shows. Canon, Nikon, Panasonic, Sony, Pentax, Olympus, all the major camera manufacturers, they don't so much announce their cameras at the show, but in the days leading up to it. So from Sunday before the show right up until the show itself, they'll make camera announcements. And some of them will give us an awful lot of detail. Some of them will show off the camera. Some of them will even let us put our hands on the camera. But when will they ship? Well, that can vary anytime from the show, the date of the show, all the way up until 3 months afterwards. So we are expecting the Panasonic GH6 to drop up to CP Plus, but there's also several other major cameras we can expect. Now from Sony, the follow-up to the A7R4, the A7R5, we could expect that at this show. A high megapixel version of the Canon EOS R5. I don't expect anything on the R1 at this point. The Canon could tease us. They could start doing what they did with the R5. They could start slowly leaking information about the R1 at CP Plus, but I think it's a little bit early. But there's so many cameras we could get teased on from Canon. Canon is Sony's ahead of the game when it comes to mirrorless. They really led this, and Canon is still playing catch up. As far as APS-C, our system cameras, well, we could get one or many at this event being announced. We could also get a follow-up. There's two cameras that really are in need of updating, the RP and the R. The R being a mirrorless version of the 5D Mark IV, which was announced, what, back in 2015, 2016? I mean, that was a long time ago, so it was kind of outdated when it was released, and it's not aging well. And the RP, we're definitely getting a replacement of this camera, which is expected to sell for $899, which has got to be the lowest priced entry-level full-frame mirrorless camera out there. Now, in terms of video specs, these cameras don't really have a lot of great video specs, but stills-wise, it's a great way to enter into the market. We'll just have to see what the refreshed models look like. I don't know what they're going to be called. I highly doubt that they're going to be a successor to the RP and the EOS R, but there are two placeholders in the roadmap, one for an entry level and one that sits between the R6 and the RP replacement. And of course, Olympus, when are we getting their WOW camera? Well, we could get their announcement right around this time as well. And Pentax, we haven't really got much from Pentax. They still love DSLRs and don't see themselves changing anytime soon. The next major trade show, I don't expect any announcements, anything whatsoever. It's all about weddings, and it's the WPPI from February the 27th to March the 3rd in Las Vegas, United States. And that's all we're going to cover on that one. Now, the next trade show is another major trade show for the year, NAB 2022. It's going to take place from April the 23rd to the 27th. This was postponed from October, which was postponed from the spring. NAB has been moved around more than Photokina. It's one of those trade shows that's really, really exciting because this is where we expect broadcast cinema announcements. This show is all about professionals, broadcast and cinema, but because the lines between professional use and hobbyist is kind of blurring, we see that with the R5, the Alpha 1, and the Z9, and some of the cinema cameras, like we look at the C70, which comes in just a little bit more, about $1,000 more than the Canon EOS R5. So there is a lot of interest from consumers in this trade show. What can we expect? Well, Canon was supposed to announce two 8K cinema cameras at NAB 2021, the one that was supposed to take place in October. Both, one of them is going to be a full frame, has a full frame sensor. The other has a Super 35, dynamic range, 16 plus stops of dynamic range for each one of these, and backside illuminated sensors. They're also supposed to be announcing a 4K cinema camera capable of up to 240 frames per second in fast mode and 120 frames per second in non-fast mode with 20 stops of dynamic range. But there's also two other cameras that we haven't really heard anything about that we were supposed to get in early 2021. And that's the Canon C50 and the C90. So we'll have to wait and see if those cameras are still being announced in any way whatsoever. And what can we expect from Sony? Will we get an FX version of the Alpha 1? I know Stop the FOMO's been eagerly waiting for this, and the fear of missing out on that one. I know a lot of Sony users would love to be able to have an FX version of the Alpha 1 to be able to shoot basically unlimited 8K video. So NAB 2021 is supposed to take place between the 23rd and the 27th of this year, and hopefully it still goes ahead. At the very least, I hope they hold a virtual event, but who knows, they could postpone it till October. Things are really kind of all over the place right now. We thought 2021 would be better than 2020. In fact, it's gotten worse, and 2022 isn't off to a good start. Now in China, on April the 15th through the 18th, we have the P&E Show. This is the Chinese equivalent of CP+, and I'm going to be paying close attention to this trade show this year. In the last couple of years, we've seen the number of Chinese camera manufacturers, or I should say camera accessory manufacturers, just growing exponentially. Most of these lenses right here for the R system are from Japanese manufacturers. They're making all sorts of equipment, from gimbals to lenses to lens accessories to camera accessories. So I'm going to be watching this show for any major camera announcements. Now, will we get the Crane 3, the Crane 3S? Well, we'll just have to wait and see, but I wouldn't be surprised to get some major camera announcements from Chinese manufacturers at this trade show. Now, this is one trade show I've greatly missed, and that's Photokina. It takes place in Cologne, Germany this year between May the 18th to the 21st. This is one of the premier trade shows outside of CP+. When it comes to stills hybrid cameras, It's about Photokina. Now, in previous years, up until 2020, we would expect major camera announcements all the way from January up until May, and then things would kind of die off for the summer before we'd get another round of announcements from the second week of September up until the end of October. Things have changed a little bit, and sometimes when we're starting to see a difference, in 2020 we started to see a difference with cameras getting announced later into the year. But I do expect major camera announcements at Photokina. That high megapixel version of the R5, we could see it at CP+, or we could see it at Photokina. The same with the Sony A7 R5 or other major stills hybrid cameras. I don't expect that Panasonic is going to wait this late for the GH6. I really do expect that prior to CP+. But Canon, again, we could get some APS-C R system cameras. There's supposed to be 3 that are in the works. We could get some at CP+, we could get some at Photokina. It's really hard to say, but this is where we get all sorts of announcements. We get announcements about gimbals, lenses, camera bodies, camera accessories, lens accessories. This is one of the last major trade shows before we reach the fall season, and one of the last major trade shows of the years. The rest of the trade shows coming up, they're nice, but we generally don't get major announcements at these events. So let's cover off some of those. We have PHOTONEXT that's going to take place between June the 7th and the 8th in Yokohama. It's for photographers, and it's aimed around photos and stills and all that kind of wonderful stuff. Then in June, on the 9th to the 12th, we have LA EXPO, obviously in LA, and this is a cinema event. Not surprising, in LA, home of Hollywood. I know, Hollywood's a different city than LA, but you know what I'm getting at. And of course, when we move to the fall, we have the IFA from September the 2nd to the 6th. It's a consumer electronics show in Berlin, and it's set to rival the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, the United States, the one that's supposed to be coming up in a couple of days. And then, of course, we have the IBC Show from September the 9th through the 12th. This is Europe's largest broadcast equipment exhibition, and it's going to be held in Amsterdam this year. So it's all about professional video equipment and cinema lenses. The next trade show is in the UK, and it's the Photo and Video Show from September the 17th to the 20th. Now, sometimes we do get some camera announcements around this time, but that's, like I said, this is when things really start off in the fall, right from the second week of September up until the end of October. So who knows, we might get some events right up around this show or leading up to it. The next trade show is Photopia, and it's in Hamburg from October the 13th through the 16th. Now, we can get some major camera announcements here. This is usually the last month to get announcements before the end of the year. But again, with the whole economic situation right now, it feels like everything's operating in molasses. So while things usually ended in October, well, look at the Nikon Z9. It was announced October, the 28th, and started shipping on Christmas Eve of all days. So who knows? Who knows? We might get some major events at this trade show. We'll just have to wait and see. And then, of course, we finish off the year with Inter-B. It's November the 16th to the 18th in Japan, and it's a major media exhibition. So we've got a lot of trade shows coming out in 2021. Did I miss any out? I know there was one in Paris that 4/3 Rumors talked about, but nothing has happened since, 2018, 2019, and there's nothing on the website. So to me, it's not worth talking about. If we don't have anything that's current, I'm not going to go into it. So again, to sum up, the major trade shows to watch out for are CP+, Photokina, and Photopia, as long as the Photo and Video Show. But it's what's not going to be mentioned at these trade shows. You really want to watch from the second week of January all the way up until CP+. Expect some announcements there and some major announcements. Now, I didn't talk about the Canon EOS R1, and that's for very good reason. You see, if you look back to the Canon EOS R5 on January the 27th of 2020 is when we got our first leak. It was from Canon Rumors, and Canon Rumors put it as a CR3, meaning it's from known sources, multiple sources, and it's been validated. And Craig went as far as to say, consider it fact. Well, he must have gotten it from somebody at Japan's marketing department that had leaked it to him to stir up some noise. And this happens. Sometimes these leaks are intentional. They're on purpose because it's free marketing. They don't have to pay for it. And we got the actual announcement of the R5 on July the 9th. So February, March, April, May, June, about 6 months afterwards. So if we're expecting the Canon EOS R1 to be announced in the third quarter. That's from July, August, or September. Now, if we use the R5 as an example, let's say they do the announcement early July, we could start to get some leaks on the R1, some very serious and valid leaks on the R1 as early as the end of January. So here's what I'm expecting to happen. We will get the R5C announcement right around January the 11th to the 18th. And then towards the end of the month, we might get our first leak of the R1. These cameras are very different, so the R1 isn't going to really steal the thunder away from the R5 too much. But it could wait another month. We might have to wait until CP+. But the really cool thing about getting a late January or early February announcement is then what Canon can do at CP+, or in the days up to the CP+, is they can then issue a development announcement. Now, hopefully the development announcement is like the one for the 1DX Mark III, which was very, very specific. It covered off some 20 different specifications. The R5 development announcement was much less. The leaks were a whole lot better. The development announcement for the R5 more or less covered 8K and a few other tidbits. And then what Canon did for every 4 or 5 weeks after that, we got further validation of what was leaked on January the 27th, with Canon Rumors putting out stuff almost every week teasing the R1. And if the R1 is supposed to be the master of everything, as sources are saying, this would make sense for Canon. This would drum up an awful lot of interest up until the announcement in July. July. And then when would it be available for purchase? Well, even if it was 3 months later or 4 months later, that's fine. People could get excited about it. We could start to see reviews on DP Review, Tony Northrup's channel, Frono's, many other channels. They're not going to get, well, they might give one to me. They gave me the R5 about a week before the R5 was to be available for sale. So who knows, I might get one too. And I would love to be able to shoot with it, depending on what the video capabilities are going to be. So here's my thoughts on the R1. I think it's going to take everything that the R5 and the R3 does and do it better. 8K video, 60 frames per second, maybe even 120 frames per second. Dual SIF express cards. Stills, it's going to be somewhere between 50 and 60 megapixels. It's going to be backside illuminated and most likely a stack sensor as well. And I think this is going to be just a super amazing fast camera, but the price, I'm still going to hold my thoughts and keep it at $64.99 until we get some really credible leaked specifications on the R1. There's no way to peg a price. What people are saying, well, it could be $10,000. You have no way of knowing this because we don't have any specifications. Without specifications, we have nothing to base any projection on. So the only reason I'm projecting at $64.99 is that's what the 1DX Mark III retailed for just a year ago and does today, $64.99. That's what a 1 series camera is selling for these days. So without an updated list of specifications, it's all conjecture. And we really have very few expectations or specifications rumored on the R1. Easy to look at the Z9. It's easy to look at the Alpha 1 and the R3 and say, okay, based on these cameras, this is what we can expect the R1 to deliver. But it's all conjecture. So I'm really looking forward to what we have planned this year. Hopefully this year does get better. I really do. Like you, I'm just tired of everything. I want to get on with my regular life and I want things to get back to normal. Sorry, I was just checking my audio, make sure it was working. I've done that before and I've also forgotten to click record as well. Oh, and one last thing too, I almost forgot to mention this. Please subscribe, please like. It really does help my channel grow and I take it as a virtual pat on the back. Just seeing more subscribers is, I don't know what it is. If you play video games, if you watch the stock market or gold, whatever it is, you just love seeing numbers go up. It's kind of one of those statistics I like to see. I like to see videos that do rather well. I like to see videos that can get 8,000 views within 24 hours. I like to see when I can get a couple of hundred subscribers in a day. So I take it as a virtual pat on the back, and you watching my content certainly does help this channel grow. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. We'll probably see each other very soon, as I expect an awful lot of announcements in the next coming weeks.